Hi guys, as previously promised, here is another behind the scenes glimpse. This week I will be showing you how I work. I've had a few requests from people interested to see what my process is, so without giving away too many of the deep, dark secrets of A Time of Shadows, I will present you with a demo track and how I created it. This is my process and how I work. I will show parts of the tune structure, showing how I create each part, then I will play a small portion of it, presenting you all the different elements, and in about the last 4 minutes of the video, you'll see my regular Freaking Friday video. I will play the entire track with all the elements brought together, all put to a suitable video. I've called this track Haunted Ruins. I always begin with the chord progression. To me, this is the natural starting point, as the melody, chords, and even the rhythm of the tune are all dependent on the chords and the chord progression. Music that is scary, tension-filled, and of a darker nature is usually all created using minor chords. Very rarely I will throw in a major chord, but usually I use minor and derivatives of that. For example, F minor and F sharp minor, or B minor and B flat minor, and also sevenths and ninths chords in a minor scale. Here are a few examples of some classic horror or dark music chord progressions. After playing around with some of the chords and chord changes, and I'm going to just say here that chord changes can sound pretty cool and creepy, so this to me is also quite an important factor. So this is the chord progression I came up with. The musically inclined people among you will notice that I don't always stay in the same scale. This is part of creating the dissonance of horror music. My chord progression here is C sharp minor to A minor to F sharp minor to B flat minor and back to the C sharp minor again. I usually use a 4 chord progression, but will sometimes do a 5 or 6 chord just to mix it up. I like to keep it different. I will usually use strings or some kind of synth sound to hear the chord progression properly. You'll hear here that I use strings. I like using those because you get a really good feel for the chord. But I didn't actually use strings in the final track, and this was quite deliberate. I wanted to do something a bit different with this one. So here is the actual progression played that I've picked. After picking the chord progression, I begin work on the melody. I have used Creepy Piano 3, my go-to horror piano, because it has so many cool sounds that can be adjusted to my liking. For this melody, I made a simple yet spooky tune. I removed the delay and increased the amount of reverb to give the more hollow, echoing sound that I was looking for. This came in pretty loud, so I lowered the volume, but then needed to double the track to give it the punch I wanted, without getting the distortion of having the volume too loud. Here is a part of the tune that I created. Next was the spooky counterpoint. Normally at this point I would lay down chords. I didn't really want to use chords this time. I wanted to do more of a counterpoint to the melody. Not a counter melody. It didn't feel right for this track. I created this sound using a few deep, dark, secret methods that involve late night pledges of allegiance to the Cthulhu gods. Not really, but it sounded good. I used a few of my own elements and tools and this awesome virtual instrument from New Nation called Mesosphere. It's basically a cool instrument used to create your own ambiences, pads and atmospheres. I spent a full day playing with this one and created lots of new sounds. These will feature in future albums along with any new ones I make in the near future. The cool thing is you can just drag and drop your own sounds and effects into this, then manipulate them with the engine within the instrument to produce sounds like this. Again, one layer was loud, too loud, so I lowered the volume slightly on that one layer, but then it got a little bit lost in the other sounds, so I laid down 2 layers, but to keep the impact of the sound, I panned one fully to the left ear and one fully to the right. This way it kept the balance and it still came through strong without overwhelming everything else. I wanted it in the background, but not too much. Now came a deep sound to fill out the frequencies. As the piano is all in the higher frequencies and the counterpoint is in the mid to high frequencies, I felt we needed a low frequency sound. I didn't want to use traditional chord like I would normally for this track. I just wanted to hint at the chord by playing one single note. This would be the root note, so C sharp, A, F sharp and B minor. At first I tried a deep piano sound with lots of reverb to carry the sound through, but when I put it all together I didn't like it. So I went with this awesome Creepy Piano 3 atmosphere. I love the attack of the note and the fact that it holds right through the rest of what I'm playing by holding the note down. There are some slight hints of a higher tone in the background there, just to add a whole new element. This effect was a keeper. I'll show you the example now. Now it was time to turn my attention to the ambiences and atmospheres. The tune was very full as it was, so this track didn't take as many layers as some do, mainly because I wanted to achieve this hollow, haunted ruins feel to the track. So firstly, I wanted a nice spooky wind for this. I used Sound Iron's awesome horror re-release, Sick 3. This had some very cool spooky sounds on it. I used 2 sounds from the interior wind section. You can mix up to 4 layers at once on this instrument. I use a lot of Sound Iron products. I created what I needed, then bounced the track to make it a wave file. Here's a brief demo of the sound. Next was the drone. I don't always use drones, but for this track, I thought the deep note played throughout would add tension. I recently bought Steinberg's Retrolog 2. I love this synth. It's so easy to create your own sounds on it. I've created several, including my own grand cathedral organ sound, as well as a small church organ sound. Here is the cathedral organ sound I created. Sorry for the little indulgence there. Anyway, I didn't use that sound in this track, but it will feature soon in other tracks. I also purchased Dark Mass, also from Steinberg, and created by the music producers called The Solos. This is an amazing sound pack and comes with 151 dark, horror-inspired sounds. I look forward to using more of this. It has already featured in Ravenson Mansion Family Legacies. Here, I chose a cool, deep sound for my drone called Under the Radar. I used 2 notes, both C sharp, 1 deep and 1 mid-tone, to fill out the drone sound. Here's the demo of the drone. The final element to the track, to round out the ambience, I felt I needed some tubular bells. There is something spooky and creepy if they're used in a horror context about that sound. I felt it would add a cool element to the overall track. For this I used BBC Symphony Orchestra from Spitfire Audio. I do love this orchestra and use it so much in my music. Their tubular bells are perfect. I always add full reverb to them to help them sound out nicely, and just felt it was the final part of the ambience and atmosphere for this track. Here's a quick demo. There you have it. That is how I work in a nutshell. I will now need to give a pint of my blood to the dark Cthulhu gods to appease them for sharing this information with you. I hope you enjoyed this look into the shadows and the darkness that is A Time of Shadows. I present for you now the completed track, Haunted Ruins. If you like this track and you would like me to develop it further, as I am thinking of using it in the next album, I will rework some of it and I will add more to it if I do. Please click the like button in the video. If I get 10 or more likes, I will include this as part of the next album. Enjoy and stay spooky, spooky, spooky.